Newsmaker Live with me, Kendall Burton. I have two very special guests in studio with me this evening, in the persons of Alicia Ali and Mondi Lewis, the organizers of the I Stand Against campaign, which was launched today with a silent march through the city streets. Ladies, welcome to Newsmaker Live.
Thanks, Kendall.
Thank you.
Let's start with a discussion about what the I Stand Against campaign is all about. Who came up with the idea? What's it all about? What are the aims and objectives of the campaign?
Oh, do you want to start this off, Mondi?
You go ahead, Ali.
Mondi's a little bit tired after our march today. The I Stand Against campaign, it actually started all on Facebook in this new technological age when we felt that something needed to be done. It was enough talking. We needed to make a statement, especially as young people, as young women. We needed to say, okay, guys, you know what, you need to stop, you need to listen. We mean business. For me, it came about, I can empathize with the victims of violence because I was a recent victim myself. And when I heard about what happened to Charisse, it really touched me, especially since I know her mom, and her mom is such a wonderful person and has always been a wonderful person to me. And we started a discussion where it was on the NYC Facebook page, the National Youth Council, where we said, you know what, something needed to be done. And in a private discussion with a friend of mine, Eleanor, she said, you know what, Alicia, we need to take a stand. We need to show that we are not going to tolerate it. And it shouldn't be just a one-off event. We need to really make a difference. And so the idea came for I Stand Against. So I pitched it to the National Youth Council, and they were on board, they were supportive, and they bought into it right away. And from there, Mondi and I have been thrashing out the details. Because Mondi said to me, Alicia, we cannot sit back and do nothing. We need to make a difference in whatever way that we can. And so I Stand Against, the concept is to touch the social consciousness of the individual person and also to affect our country at a policy level. Because we do have some rather archaic laws to deal with, some archaic systems to deal with. And we felt that we should not depend solely on government and government agencies. I'm not saying they don't have their part to play, but we as individual persons in our personal capacity, we have a role to play in making our society better.
Okay. And how do you tie in the campaign? Is it purely coincidental or designed to be launched on this date?
Okay, the 25th of every month is designated to raising awareness against violence for women and girls. And I've always been a strong advocate of that. It's something that on my Facebook, every 25th, put up my orange ribbon, and I try to wear something orange on the 25th of every month. While speaking to Alicia about a date, I said, Alicia, the 25th is coming, and it was shares as if everything was just in sync to work. And the 25th came, and we felt that it was the appropriate time to have it because around the world, the people are raising awareness in their own ways, and why not in St. Lucia? We have so many problems facing us right now, and I think it was very appropriate that our campaign be launched today.
And one of the things that we really wanted to do to modify the theme is not only to focus on women and children or women and girls. We wanted to make it an all-inclusive event. So we cannot neglect our males, our young boys, our men. So we wanted to make sure that it was an all-encompassing campaign.
But before we move on, I want you to tell me a little more about the Orange Day and the 25th of every month, because when you brought the idea or you brought it to my attention, I had not been aware of it. My focus had been, as everybody else I imagine, on the 25th of November, not being aware. Tell me a little more about the Orange Day.
Okay, it's really a United Nations day. It was launched in July, I believe, or June on the 25th. And it's actually going to be celebrated in November, the International Day Against the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls on 25th of November this year. And what the United Nations is asking countries and organizations to do is to wear orange to really start the discussion about ways in which we can end violence against women and girls. And what has been found is that these are the most vulnerable people in our society, and we need to pay particular attention to them too, to us as a young woman. We face challenges every day in the workplace, at home, on the streets, and it's a way for St. Lucians to really begin to speak about abuses, because this is something that is not silent in our homes, in our communities, but yet we want it to be silent. It's still taboo to say that, you know, I have been abused. I face challenges, whether it's verbal or physical abuse, and this is something that we need to start talking about, because too many women are victims to that. Too many of our children are facing abuse every day, and it needs to end.
Yeah. And those are some of the themes that have been touched on so far: safety of women at work, at home, at school, and that sort of thing. What do you attribute some of these reactions to the subject to? Is it the smallness of the island, the communities that we live in, embarrassment, stigma, discrimination?
Well, it's been a cultural mindset for a while. There are a lot of things that are taboo in our society. When we look at homosexuality, it's taboo. Mental illness, it's taboo. Therapy, it's taboo. We have a lot of taboos, and we need to break the glass ceilings. I mean, Ione Olinga Ford was one of the forefront. She was at the forefront of breaking the glass ceiling of domestic violence in St. Lucia. She formed the crisis center. From there, we got the family court, and you know, we had that movement. And so we have a sort of reactive society where we always want to hold our corner until something happens, and when it affects us, we feel that we stand alone. There is nobody else who's pushing our cause. But if we come together and say, okay, well, in this day and age, there is no such thing as a taboo. We need to move forward, and we need to just change our cultural mindset. And as Mondi was saying, we need to get the discussion started. We cannot wait for somebody else to do it. Let's say we have a UN designation coming down, a delegation coming down, or we wait for the St. Lucia National Commission for UNESCO to start doing something. Why is it that we have to wait for somebody else to start a discussion that we can start ourselves? And that is what we aim to do.
Bearing in mind what you just said, were you happy with the turnout at today's event?
The turnout at today's event, we expected the President of the Senate, who honestly made a wonderful effort with his white and orange. He stood in the front with us. We did have about 50 people or so. I'm horrible at math.
Horrible at estimation.
Yeah, horrible at estimations as well. But for the first event, I was actually very pleased. And through our Facebook page, we have been getting people from all over the island sending us photographs of them in their orange, showing solidarity, and persons who are overseas as well, St. Lucians in the diaspora. They're sending us and saying, guys, you know, we can't be home, but we stand with you. We stand against violence.
Okay, we're talking with Alicia Ali and Mondi Lewis, two of the organizers of the I Stand Against campaign, which was launched today with a silent march throughout the city of Castries. We want to take a look at some of the people who participated, some of the voices who participated. We'll go to our first clip for this evening, and then we'll get your reaction afterward.
One aspect of the entire campaign, what we hope to do afterwards is to join with other organizations. So, for instance, for RISE and Gender and Human Services, to come together to find, because we're all doing work. But to solve this problem, it really needs to be a collaborative effort. So what we're hoping to do is to join with other agencies, other young persons, to have creative and also proactive activities that can really challenge us as individuals and our institutions and our governments to really do better and do more, so that, you know, another family doesn't have to bury a young person.
This march is twofold. It's in observance of Orange Day, which is a United Nations designated day. The 25th of every month is recognized as Orange Day. So today is Orange Day. We're informing people of it. We're getting people to meet not only as victims of crimes, but sympathizing also. We've had 2 meetings with the Prime Minister within the last 2 months, and out of discussions, crime was something important to both of us. And so he tasked us, among other things, to come up with somewhat of a youth crime commission that would speak directly to young people.
Okay, we heard you, Ms. Mondi Lewis, in that clip talking about the event today not being the only or an isolated event. There have been other protests before, there have been other marches. What is it about your activity or your campaign that's going to achieve what the others have not or failed to achieve? Because it seems with in spite of all these marches and protests, the problem has gotten worse. So what's going to be different about the I Stand Against campaign?
Well, what is different with us, with Alicia and I think it's really passion and commitment to the cause. Not that others haven't been passionate or committed to their causes, but I think this is something that Alicia and I have spoken about for eons, from school days, from convent days, and it's a friendship that I think it has developed out of a need. We always know that there is a need in our society. For our campaign to be different, we really would like to get, because everybody's doing such amazing work, even if it's at a community level, people are doing phenomenal work. But I think it's important that we pool our resources. It cannot be disjointed. Alicia and I do not have all the solutions. We do not.
Admittedly, we admit our shortcomings. We don't have all the solutions.
But we are really encouraging people. We're looking for a lot of guidance from persons who have had these sorts of campaigns, who have groups in St. Lucia. So like I spoke to about RISE, we really would like to come together to meet with them, to discuss ways forward, to discuss the activities that they are doing, and even to look at the challenges, because a lot of times we need to look at the challenges that we face to see whether somebody else has a better way of doing it. And it's really about, we all have the same goal, and that is to better what we're doing to make ourselves a better society. So for us, it's really about collaborating with persons for seeking guidance, and we are open to constructive criticism, we're open to suggestions. We really want to form a committee, a pool of people who are dedicated to the cause, and we have been getting such tremendous feedback from this, and I am so happy about the spirit of young people in St. Lucia. A lot of people think that it's dead and youth are passive or indifferent, but we are alive and kicking and full of ideas. It's just about pulling that together in a sustainable way, because that's what we need, sustenance. And I think we will prevail, and I think this campaign is going to be so phenomenal that St. Lucians, everybody will want to be on board with us.
To build on what Mondi was saying, we have actually been soliciting advice, not only from those who have come before in terms of the persons who had similar marches and vigils, but we've solicited the advice of our NGOs in our society, but also from the ordinary people on the street, our young people, our unattached youth, our at-risk youth as well. What would they like to see? Where would they see this movement going? What would they like out of the movement? Because as we said, we don't have all the answers. And we don't want it to be dictatorial, say, okay, because we said it's going in this direction, this is how it's going to go, and that's the end of it. No, that's not what we're doing.
Right. So is it too soon to ask you about some of the ideas that you have, or some of the directions that you want it to go?
We have been getting suggestions left, right, and center. Everything from anger management in schools to conflict management, to equipping our guidance counselors. We have persons suggesting that we lobby for more after-school programs, or lobby government for certain things where policy is concerned. So there are so many different ideas right now, and we welcome all of them. It is sorting through it and plotting the way forward, planning how it is we're going to move, what is our short-term goals and our long-term goals. So right now we are still at the planning stages. We would love to have come tonight and say, okay, well, next week this is what we're going to do. But as I said, we're still soliciting advice, and we want to make sure that we are, in our passion, we are not misguided.
Sounds like you have your work cut out for you.
Yes, we do.
And that would explain why you need all the collaboration and the support of the other organizations as well.
Definitely.
I want to ask you, what do you think is the single most or biggest contributing factor to the violence in the society?
You want to take this one?
I don't know if there's a single biggest factor contributing to this. I can point out to so many things that I believe, and I think that even research has shown is causing some of the problems that we face in society, and not only in St. Lucia, because this is a regional problem. This is a worldwide problem. But as to a single problem, I don't think that there is one, but I can point to a few of them, and I think it is really, I'm one to say that I think a lot of these problems start in the home. I think the breakdown of the family is one thing that has contributed significantly to the degradation of our society. We have taken out the institutions from the community. The churches seem no longer relevant. Schools, your families, there's so many fatherless homes. I read a research paper which said that, you know, between St. Lucia and Jamaica, 85% of our families do not have fathers. And children need fathers just as they need mothers. And that is one way which has contributed significantly to the problems that we see. Another problem area is our judicial systems. Our courts are broken. Our human services do not have the capacity or the money to address a lot of the needs in society. Our education system, there are so many things that are broken in our society that all of them in one way or the other manifest itself into this huge problem that no one seems to know which direction to start from, which angle to take. But it really has to be a multifaceted approach to solving our problems with crime and violence and just really senseless killing. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but speaking of reports, the World Health Organization has pointed to a number of factors that both the perpetrators of these violent acts as well as the victims have in common. You touched on one of them, the fatherless homes, being exposed to violence themselves growing up. How can a campaign like yours help to address those issues?
Well, as I said, we're taking a two-pronged approach to our campaign. We want to tackle it from a policy level, but also from a societal level. We don't want to just reach our young people and have them do introspection. We want our adults to do introspection as well. Because when you have people who are in a home, persons in a home together, and they have really bad anger issues that are not addressed, when parents argue so horribly in front of their children, our children learn from our behavior, and as adults we teach them what we know, what we exude, and we need to work on changing that, even in terms of how we discipline our children. I'm not advocating spare the rod and spoil the child or any of that. I'm saying some of our punishments border on child abuse and are child abuse, and our children grow up with that sort of negativity all the time. And I do find a lot of the times we tend to find ourselves in negative environments, and the positivity is so difficult to find. So instead of encouraging young people to achieve and excel, you find there's a notion that achievement discriminates because Mondi and I are so young, we should not be at the positions that we are, we should not be doing certain things. And all that, as I said, it's a cultural mindset that we need to change, we need to address, and we need to make it better.
The death of Cherise Benoit, one of the inspirations for this campaign. We've reported on it extensively. She was buried this week. We wanted to look at the report that DBS carried, and then we'll get your reactions.
Okay. Yeah.
Friends and family of 19-year-old Cherise Benoit gathered at the Roman Catholic Church to bid their final farewell. Cherise Benoit died on September 12 in Lafayette. The 19-year-old was found bound and gagged in her bedroom. A post-mortem examination revealed that she died by strangulation. Her killers have not been found, and her friends are still in shock.
She was a loving person, I'd say, very loving. She had this, her smile, I could just see it right now, you know, and I cannot believe that she's gone right now and she's not gonna be with us. I'm not gonna see her in the next 10 years and say, "Hi, Cherise, oh my God, you look great." I can't believe that she's gone, that's all.
3 people were arrested following Cherise Benoit's death and later released. Police Tuesday reiterated an appeal for anyone with information to come forward. Some well-wishers called for justice.
Look for the right, look for justice for their child. Because I went through that same thing too, and up to now I don't know who the killer was. So everybody have to put their head together and look for justice.
Let's hope they find the killers and bring the killer to justice. It'll be all right.
There were some who came to pay their respects after hearing the news of the murder, and arrangements for the funeral moved to empathy because they have children of their own.
I feel that in my heart.
Some mourners were dressed in the color pink, a color which they say the late Cherise Benoit loved. After the church service, the body of the 19-year-old was laid to rest at Shock Cemetery. Ironically, the teenager, who relatives say was distressed about mountain crime, was on the verge of traveling abroad to fulfill her dream of becoming a forensic scientist. Reporting for the DBS News World, I am Cecil Actil.
Now, this was obviously a very shocking crime. A very young woman cut down in the prime of her life, big plans to study forensic science. Do you think that people or criminals are more or just as anxious or willing to kill as to steal? And that's not to suggest that that was the motive for what happened with Cherise. But is it that people are becoming more desensitized? Is it that they don't fear the consequences of their actions? What do you think attributes or is responsible for this violence?
That's a part of the issue, Kendall. We've become so numb in our society to a lot of things. When we see, let's say, incidences like this with what happened to Cherise, there's always this emotional outpouring from the public. And then a few weeks down the line, it dies out. We had the same instance with Crystal St. Omer, with Alicia, with Levi Wilson, with Burt Norville. All these emotional outbursts, and then everybody allows it to just pass. It simmers until the next incident comes along, and then we want to react again. And obviously our criminals, because of how our system is structured, they do feel that they have an upper hand on the law, which may not in certain cases be the truth, but that is how the perception is. And really it is difficult to try to address the situation, as Mondi said, from one angle. We need to take it from all sides.
And how can we address this short attention span that you alluded to?
Wow, I don't. And I think today's march, some people I've gotten all different excuses. The timing was bad. There have been 2 marches before. But my thing is that you should never be tired of speaking out or acting out against violence. Because like I was telling one of my friends, I said when it's carnival season, there are like 3 parties in a week. And some of us go to all of them. And are we tired of that? I know it's different, it's entertainment, it's enjoyment. But at the same time, does a life not matter? Does saving another life not matter, that we become so tired of marching, of speaking out, of forming groups to mentor students, that we don't have enough time to be a part of after-school activities? I think as a people, we really have to set our priorities straight. We say that we're tired of killings, and we're tired of murders, we're tired of rape. But what exactly are we doing to show that we're tired? Are we just on Facebook
Calling up the talk shows, just in groups all day talking? And that's why it had to be a silent protest. That's why it had to be 15 minutes of silence and reflection and resolution, because that's what we are, we're talkers. Yes, we are. And it's the time for talkers. It's over, it's out.
And this death really affected me in a way that I was shocked, because I didn't know Cherise. But when I saw pictures of her on Facebook, when I visited the convent, I thought that, wow, oh my gosh, she was in my house. She was in St. Teresa's. She was the house captain of my house. And I was the captain of St. Teresa's too. And I thought, this could have been me. Or this could have been Ali. This could have been my best friend. And it really affected me in a way that I didn't even realize that I could have been affected. And this is why this campaign is so important, and the need for it to continue, and the need for it to save a life, even if it's to save one young man or one young woman, in helping them resolve conflict better than they would normally have. And even for Alicia and I, it's a real learning process, because we think we have a certain thought pattern, but people every day are challenging us to do more, to be better, to don't give up. There are others who are saying, oh, this is going to die, just like every other thing that dies in St. Lucia. But, you know, to those who are encouraging us, we really appreciate it. And I think if more people get on board to really do something, I think there will not be, or there should not be, another Cherise Benoit.
One of the things that really moved me, Kendall, is the attendance at her funeral. We saw there was
Standing room only.
I don't think there was standing room. There was no room. There was no breathing room. There were people outside, and the cathedral was packed. And even those who could not make it to the cathedral, you know, they were standing. You could feel that their support was there, because through their posts on Twitter, their posts on Facebook, even them calling into the talk shows, whether it's Newspin or Straight Up or even Newsmaker Live, you could tell that a lot of people were affected by this. But how long will these people, the random strangers, be affected? I know Cherise's mom and her family, her loved ones and her friends, they have to live with that. And they will, no matter what, still love Cherise, and they will want justice for her. But how does that translate to the rest of the populace who didn't know Cherise, who didn't have that connection with her and with her family? Are they going to forget about her 2-3 days down the line when something else happens, or when the next fete comes around, or when life gets in the way? That's what we have to, Mondi and I, with this campaign, we have to ensure that doesn't happen.
I guess it boils down to what you were saying earlier. It's the way people think. You know, it's something that's far removed from them. Unless it happens to a relative or somebody close to them, then, you know, you dismiss it as another figure, another statistic. A lot of people believe that the key to ending crime and violence is to change the way people think. How can we go about changing the way people think? Okay,
I think it has to be something that is done the same way about, I think, when we had litter campaigns. I think Castries is always very dirty. St. Lucia is very dirty. And I say, but no one is saying, where are all these ads which used to say, stop the litter? Where are the people who used to go into the primary schools and tell students about the detriments of littering? You know, people need to hear things. People need to do things. For St. Lucians, for us as a society to do away with this numbing, and I understand numbing, because a lot of times we try to cope, we numb by working overtime, by overeating, by drinking. These are the ways, some of the ways that we numb as a society. But for us really as a society to have I suppose, a brainwashing activity going on, and I mean this is brainwashing for the good.
So about re-educating them.
Yes, re-education. Right. I think it has to be in our faces, and we literally have to get involved. We cannot wait until something happens to us. We should feel as a society that every death is as a failure of something that we fail to do, that I fail to do. So the day that I see an underage child walking the streets and he's supposed to be in school, I'm supposed to be able to say to him, why aren't you at school? And you know, the worst that can happen is that I get cursed. But I think, you know, at least you did something. You asked him that question, and you can go further and go to the police. Why is this child? Because I'm not the only one who's seen him in town walking around during school. Somebody else must have seen him. And even for the schools, when they realize that children are not at school, what exactly is the policy?
What is the protocol?
The protocol for teachers to say that, you know, he is only 8, but he hasn't come to school for 3 days for the week. And I mean, these are the little things that as a society, if we really act upon them, because we all see it, we know they exist, but we really need to start acting on them. And there is no reason that as a society, a small society, that we cannot fix our problems that we have created for ourselves, problems that we perpetuate.
Yes, we do. What it boils down to, and Moni's trying to say it, we need to develop the backbone to do certain things. When a mother sees her daughter come home with a cell phone she knows she didn't get her daughter and her daughter couldn't afford, she should not allow that child to keep that cell phone. You inquire, where did you get it? How did you acquire it? How are you going to maintain it? Okay, you investigate those little things. When a boy comes home and gives his mom an extravagant gift that she knows that he could not afford, she should inquire and say, but how is it that you were able to get this for me? Okay, and that's all it takes. We need to start asking the hard questions, the questions that we shy away from because we already know the answers, or we are afraid of what the responses would be. That is what Monday is getting at. We need to stop, look, do some introspection, and just grow a spine.
You bring up a very interesting point about economics. How much of a role do you think is playing in this situation?
It plays a big role. We have a huge issue with unemployment in St. Lucia. We know the government has been trying to encourage people to be entrepreneurs. There are a lot of programs in place, etc. But we still have to recognize the fact the amount of graduates we have every year and the job market, they do not tally up.
Right.
The supply, the demand is not meeting the supply, and that is one of the major issues. We need to address that situation. And there are times, and we have said this time and again, we understand that sometimes people are a victim of circumstances, but our circumstances determine the choices that we make, and we need to be cognizant of the choices that we make. Yes, you cannot afford to pay rent, so you decide you're going to go burgle somebody's house. I'm not supporting that activity, but it's just a scenario. You burgle somebody's house, you see there is someone in the house. What right do you have to assault the person? What right do you have to rob that person of their life? So it all boils down to your choices and to how you want to live your life, basically.
You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS. My guests tonight are Alicia Ali and Mondi Lewis, the organizers of the I Stand For campaign, which was launched today with a silent march through Castries. We'll be right back. We're taking our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion with the link between economics and domestic violence. We'll be right back.